Hello and welcome to our special broadcast. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. Bulls show resilience on Dalal-Street. The sensex and the nifty end with minor cuts amidst a global stock market rout. Disappointing tech earnings lead to the worst sell-off on Wall Street in 2 years. After a 25-year-long wait, the Supreme Court upholds the rights of state governments to levy tax on mining projects. Arguments by the union government and mining companies are rejected. This is a big win for Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Karnataka, which account for nearly 90% of the mining activity in India.
We take a pragmatic and maybe even opportunistic view of what to do with each of these. That is the new approach.
The government is adopting a new approach to divestment, says Finance Secretary T.V. Somanathan, rolls out a pre-declared divestment calendar, saying market starts acting in anticipation, resulting in value erosion. Asserts that selling stake in PSUs is very much on the agenda. That's another exclusive. Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth says Capex at 3.4% of GDP is the maximum the government can afford, given the fiscal consolidation roadmap. Also says debt-to-GDP ratio is elevated at over 56%, hopes to bring it down to pre-pandemic levels, but not in one go. That's another exclusive. Torrential rains lash large parts of Maharashtra. 4 people dead. Schools and offices shut in Pune. Schools also shut in Mumbai Thane, Palghar and Raigad as the Met issues a red alert. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivers a forceful defense of the war in Gaza amidst applause from U.S. lawmakers. Thousands protest on the streets of Washington calling for a ceasefire in Gaza.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation.
President Biden explains why he decided to step away from the presidential race, says it was the best way to unite the nation, reiterated his endorsement of Kamala Harris. The stage is set for the world's biggest sports carnival. The Olympic Games kicks off in Paris tomorrow. The Indian contingent of 117 athletes across 16 disciplines includes 72 debutants and 4 individual medalists. Well, all of that and more coming up for you, but straight to the global market action. And overnight cues from the U.S. spilled over to the Asian markets, while the Japanese Nikkei saw its 7th straight day of losses. Benchmark indices in mainland China tested their lowest levels since February. So what led to a woeful Wednesday on Wall Street? The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq Composite seeing the worst day since 2022 on the back of underwhelming earnings reported from Tesla and Alphabet, dampening the U.S. market appetite for artificial intelligence. And this triggered a sell-off in tech, with other heavyweights like Nvidia, Microsoft and Apple taking a beating. The Nasdaq 100 index, which comprises tech stocks, lost $1 trillion in market valuation. But remember, these companies have also seen a massive run-up in the past year. But Dalal-Street has bucked the trend, with the market ending flat but sharply off the intraday lows. So if you take a look at the sensex and the nifty, they recovered and finally closed just about in the red. Absolutely flat there for the markets. The nifty, the sensex, the nifty mid-cap down by about 130 points. The nifty bank continues to be under a little bit of pressure, down by about 400 points. But the big story, and this one comes in from the Supreme Court. After a 25-year-long wait, the Supreme Court has upheld states' legislative right to levy a cess on mining and allied activities. Now, the Apex Court held that the law places no limitation on state governments from levying taxes. Remember, the Supreme Court was hearing a plea filed by the centre and mining companies. Ashmit is standing by now to take us through the details. Ashmit, significant ruling there, a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court. 8-1 is the ruling in favour of state governments. Now, how will this court order impact mining companies? And more importantly, what does this mean for state governments?
Well, a landmark judgment, this coming in from the Apex Court, a 9-judge bench pronouncing this judgment. We don't see that very often. And importantly, a wait of 9,000 days. This case was pending for 25 years. Finally, an answer being given to a critical question. The question was, do the state governments have the power to levy a cess or a tax on the mineral output from the state? The answer is an overwhelming yes from the Apex Court. It was an 8-1 majority. The Supreme Court answering that question unequivocally. The Supreme Court holding that the state governments do indeed indeed have the legislative competency to go ahead and to seek such a tax from the miners. That is absolutely kosher. And not just that, the Supreme Court also holding that the Parliament, that the centre can go only so far as to introduce a restriction under the MMDR Act. But given as how that as of right now, there is no restriction, and therefore nothing bars the state governments from going ahead and seeking this cess, this levy, this tax from the miners. Now, clearly, the obvious impact is on the miners themselves. They will have to now dish out this additional cess or levy, and it will impact the big names. We're talking about the likes of Tata Steel, JP Associates, Hindalco, SAIL, Ambuja Cement, ACC. All of them were here before the Apex Court batting against this additional cess or levy from the state governments. That's, of course, one side of the equation. The other side is the states which are mineral bearing now have a rich dividend to look at. The states of Odisha, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, MP, Karnataka, these are the states which bear these minerals, now will have that additional competency and power and clarity from the Apex Court to seek additional revenue from the miners. So a hugely important verdict, this a landmark judgment, a 9-judge bench judgment coming in from the top court.
All right, Ashwin, many thanks for joining us. In Earnings Corner, auto giant Ashok Leyland reporting a weak set of numbers in the first quarter, missing street estimates across most parameters. The company posted a 5% jump in revenue on a year-on-year basis and nearly 9% drop in net profit. The management said that they are focused on achieving EBITDA in the mid-teens in the medium term. Well, that was Ashok Leyland. Nestle India reporting weak earnings, missing street estimates across all parameters. That's not all. Domestic volume growth 1% as per sources was below the 4 to 6% prediction. The management highlighted that the company faced external challenges like lower consumption growth. Concerns on food inflation and volatile commodity prices in the first quarter also impacted the earnings. The Nestle India stock down over 2% in trade on the back of that. The government is adopting a new approach to divestment. That's the word coming in from the Finance Secretary, TV Somanathan. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, he ruled out a pre-declared divestment calendar, saying market starts acting in anticipation, resulting in value erosion. However, he has asserted that selling stake in PSUs is very much on the agenda.
Where else do you believe there is a strategic consideration that the government must consider, and where do you believe that the government could look at a much more commercial consideration and take the step forward as far as disinvestment is concerned, or is that not an expectation?
There are many areas where a commercial consideration could lead to privatization or disinvestment, and I'm, as my colleague Mr. Pandey has repeatedly been saying, they are not off the table at all. But it's one thing to say, this year I'm going to sell company X, and then the whole market waits for us to dump X and starts acting in anticipation, versus saying that I'm an investor. I have a portfolio of securities that I own. Some I'll continue to be majority owner in. Some I'll continue to be minority owner in. Some I'll dilute my majority stake. Some I will do nothing and collect dividends. And some I'll hold until they are repaired. And we take a pragmatic and maybe even opportunistic view of what to do with each of these. That is the new approach. But you will see disinvestments happening. They'll happen not perhaps to a declared pre-announced calendar, but you will still see them happening, is our both expectation and policy.
Well, that's the Finance Secretary, and more from our conversation with the budget makers. Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Sheth says Capex at 3.4% of GDP is the maximum the government can afford given the fiscal consolidation roadmap. Now, yesterday, the Finance Secretary had said that the government is very likely to hit at least 95% of the full Capex allocation of over 11 lakh crore rupees. The Economic Affairs Secretary is also concerned about the debt-to-GDP ratio, which he believes is elevated. North Bloc is hoping to bring it down to pre-pandemic levels, but not at one go.
This budget has a clear direction. The kind of a strong support government had provided over the past 4 years has helped the economy. And what this budget commits, that significant support, our endeavor would be, government endeavor would be, keep continuing providing that support.
So around this 3.5% of GDP?
That is a very high level. For decades we have never been there.
Yes.
And so the idea is that there are two other imperatives come in. The other priority needs and fiscal consolidations. It has to be done. There are the trinity which has to be taken care. The other two pieces, and who else have to do the heavy lifting? Government of India has now reached to a level which are the maximum it can sustain proportion to GDP. Second is states as a whole are spending about 2.5% of the GDP or their GSDP in Capex. The quality of expenditure has to improve there in terms of infrastructure project itself.
So what would a realistic number be then to have as far as government capex going forward, if you believe that this is the most or the maximum that the government can do?
So look at this manner, that where we are at this point of time, that in terms of the fiscal deficit is 4.9 this year.
Yeah.
That's what we are expected to do. Next year 4.5. And that's not the end of the fiscal consolidation. We have to keep on going less, of course, with the different metrics of a debt to GDP ratio. If we are talking about 3% plus to go to capital expenditure, we are still, there are expenditure which are on the revenue side, and there also there are fair amount of expenditure, not just on education, health, which are very, very important and will find full attention of the government, but also government of India provides grants to others to do capital expenditure. It provides to state governments of the order of perhaps about 3 lakh crore plus. Though in our books, meaning Government of India books, there is still revenue expenditure. So keeping it at 3% plus, now it has reached to 3.4%, moving forward, if on a nominal basis that can be maintained, that will be a good achievement.
We had a similar challenge last year when the budget was 10 lakh crores. We ended up spending 9.49, 95% of what we had budgeted for. But it would not be wise of us to allocate less, because if you allocate less, then there's a vicious circle that they would spend even less than that. Because in the government system, there's an asymmetry. They cannot spend more than what is allocated. So if you allocate less, they will plan to spend that and then perhaps slightly in some cases fall short of it. So honest answer, I think 11.11 is possible, but it is very likely that we'll get to 95+% of that.
Pre-pandemic, country was, or central government debt was around 48%. This ratio was around 48%. Because of the pandemic, it went up to almost...
Went at about 56.
It went up to 50, 61.
Yeah.
Now we are 56 plus.
Right.
Meaning that over 4 years, we have come down by about 5 percentage point. Moving forward, every year, it has to be reduced so that we reach to a more sustainable.
So what is that quantum that you realistically believe that you will be able to chip away, in your words, every year?
So the policy intent has been initiated by Finance Minister. Now it is for us now to work out the ways how to operationalize this. We have certain ideas how to put it together, but that call has to be done, that what kind of a glide path has to be done over the course of next 1 year.
Well, the budget makers there, the big national story, torrential rains have left large parts of Maharashtra reeling with flooding and landslides. The Indian Met Department has issued a red alert for Pune, Mumbai Thane, Palghar and Raigad district. A holiday has been declared in most educational institutions and various offices across Maharashtra. Flights and local trains have been delayed due to the torrential rains. At least 4 people have died so far in Pune in rain-related incidents. This after an overnight deluge caused flooding in various parts of the city. Raigad also hit by heavy rainfall. Main sources of water supply in the district crossing 50% of their capacity, causing various lakes and dams to breach their alert level. Several parts of Mumbai also witnessed waterlogging after incessant rainfall caused overflowing of dams and lakes. SpiceJet, Air India and Indigo have announced potential flight disruptions, with local trains operating at reduced speeds due to low visibility and high winds. Maharashtra's Chief Minister Eknath Shinde says preparations are in place for potential airlifting operations. Also urged residents to stay indoors and cooperate with authorities. Our team of reporters brings us the latest on the monsoon mayhem from Pune and Mumbai.
पुणे जिले के तीनों तरफा पहाड़ियों पर पिछले 48 घंटों से लगातार हुई मूसलाधार बारिश के चलते पुणे की यातायात जो है वो खराब हुई है, जान माल का नुकसान हुआ है। जो जानकारी मिली है, कल रात को 3 लोगों की पानी में करंट उतरने के चलते मौत हो गई है। वही पुणे के आसपास के डैम से लगभग 45,000 क्यूसेक पानी जो है वो नदी में छोड़ा गया है, जिसके चलते नदी के दोनों तरफ रहने वाले लोग जो है उनके घरों में पानी भर गया है और उसी वजह से माल का काफी नुकसान हुआ है। 3 लोगों की जानें गई है। सुबह 7 बजे से लेकर 11 बजे तक रेस्क्यू ऑपरेशंस जो है वो किए गए। करंट लगने की वजह से 3 लोगों की मौत हुई है। हालांकि कोई भी आदमी जो है वो उसकी डूबकर मौत नहीं हुई है।
Thursday turned out to be an extremely chaotic day for people of Mumbai metropolitan region, Raigad and Pune in Maharashtra. Right now we are in Mumbai's Andheri area, and that's Andheri subway. At present the situation is much better than what it was during the day. Andheri subway was closed for any vehicular movement due to waterlogging. Heavy rainfall led to waterlogging in multiple parts of Mumbai metropolitan region, Pune and Raigad. The situation in Pune is extremely chaotic right now in multiple areas of Pune, whether it's Varze, whether it's Singhad Road, all these areas. Water has entered housing societies. Ullas River is overflowing. That has led to massive waterlogging in parts of Ullasnagar, Thane and Kalyan. The only silver lining in this cloud is that out of 7 lakes which supply drinking water to Mumbai, 4 are overflowing now, and the water levels have reached 66%, actually are above 66%. That is the good news for Mumbai.
Well, now a problem of plenty there. That is the latest as far as the monsoon mayhem is concerned. We will head into a break, but up next, the stage is set for the world's biggest sports carnival. The Olympic Games kicks off in Paris. That and more when we return. More earnings. Tech Mahindra has just come out with its Q1 numbers. Rima standing by to take us through what they look like. Rima, what's the quarter like for Tech M?
Well, it's a slight beat on muted expectations. Tech Mahindra becomes the 5th IT companies, barring Wipro. Actually, all the large cap IT companies have come out with numbers which is slightly better than street expectation. So on the top line, the company has bounced back to growth. In Q4, revenues have declined, but this quarter revenue growth has come in at 0.7% quarter on quarter, slightly ahead of street expectation. Margins have expanded on expected line. Margins have come in at 8.5%, but again, slightly better than the 8.2% that we were anticipating. Communication as a vertical has come under pressure that the street was anticipating, but other verticals like manufacturing, retail, healthcare have been strong for the company. A heartening feature in Tech Mahindra's quarterly performance this time is some pickup in deal wins. In the whole of last year, FY24, the quarterly deal win run rate was about $400 to $450 million. But this quarter, the deal wins have shot up to $534 million. Headcount is pick up, and headcount, remember, is seen as an early indication of demand recovery. So the headcount for the company is up 2,200 quarter on quarter, while attrition continues to remain stable at about 10%. Back to you.
All right, Rima, many thanks for joining us. That's Tech Mahindra for you. Numbers just out. In international stories that we are tracking, at least 130 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza's Khan Yunis since Israel stepped up its attack in the area. About 150,000 people have been forced to evacuate the area in just 24 hours. As of this week, 83% of the Gaza Strip has been marked unsafe for Palestinian civilians by the Israeli military. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu delivered a forceful defense of the war in Gaza amidst applause from U.S. lawmakers. In a fiery speech before the U.S. Congress, Netanyahu vowed to continue the fight until total victory is achieved. He also stressed on the desire to secure U.S. support against Hamas while dismissing accusations of a genocide against Palestinians, calling it outrageous slander. Netanyahu's comments came as thousands protested on the streets of Washington, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Netanyahu hitting back at the protesters, even accusing them of receiving funding from Iran.
Today, as Israel fights on the front line of civilization, I too appeal to America. Give us the tools faster, and we'll finish the job faster. The day after we defeat Hamas, a new Gaza can emerge. My vision for that day is of a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. Israel does not seek to resettle Gaza, but for the foreseeable future, we must retain overriding security control there to prevent the resurgence of terror, to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
Well, that's Benjamin Netanyahu. Now the stage is set for the world's largest sports event. The Paris Olympic Games kicks off tomorrow with an opening ceremony that will see over 10,000 athletes parading along the Seine River aboard more than 90 boats. The Indian contingent has its eyes set on improving its Tokyo medal tally of 7. The contingent comprises 117 athletes across multiple sports. It includes 4 Olympic medalists. The event is also seeing heightened security, with organizers facing challenges over the cleanliness of the river and the environment impact of the Games. Sanjay Suri is here with a curtain raiser from Paris.
And the French are getting the Olympics off to a really smart start. Just consider the usual, where you have an Olympic stadium and the host country sets up effects and sets the stadium up as a stage on which to exhibit its unique talents and its history, its culture, really the showpiece for what it wants to present to the world. And consider the difference here in Paris. All of central Paris is now the stage. The Olympics athletes, the contingents will not march through a stadium. They will travel on boat along the river Seine right through the heart of Paris, a 6-kilometer long stage. Consider just how many people will watch this, about 500,000 expected, and that's a lot more than anything you can cram into a stadium. So for the first, at the first level, it really means participation, involvement of the local people and of French people and no doubt visitors in the opening ceremony. It's not just for the select few who can somehow manage entry into a stadium, but there's more to this than that. Consider that the Olympics is the biggest sporting event in the world. The number of people who watch, it's going to be such a showcase, such a show-off for Paris to the world. All of Paris will be on show. The stage along the 6-kilometer ride along the river Seine is going to take in some of the most iconic landmarks of Paris, Notre Dame, the Louvre, and this is really going to be a presentation to the world. Consider also that Paris is perhaps the most visited city in the world. By some estimates, about 50 million visitors to Paris every year, spending about 30 billion euros just within Paris. So there's a lot of money in tourism for Paris, and this is only going to multiply the viewing and invite more tourists. It makes show sense and it makes money sense. And to that extent, France and Paris particularly are already a winner.
Sanjay Suri there with the curtain raiser of the Olympic Games kicking off in Paris tomorrow. And of course, you can catch all the action right here on CNBC TV18. With that, it is time for us to wrap up our special broadcast. The news continues. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment with more.